Michigan's caucuses this weekend proved to be the making of one presidential campaign, the breaking of another.
Well, Marcia, Missouri Congressman Richard Gephardt called it quits today after a dismal showing. But the Reverend Jesse Jackson was elevated to front-runner status after trouncing Michael Dukakis in the Wolverine State, and now voters are beginning to ask themselves if this just might be Jackson's year.
My campaign really is a campaign of hope. To some extent, when I win, it indicates any American can win, because no longer will race and sex and religion be an impediment to one serving at any level in our country.
Jackson and Dukakis are in a virtual tie for delegates to this summer's Democratic National Convention. Both men are campaigning hard in Connecticut today. The next primary to be held in that state tomorrow.
Well, joining us now is a presidential candidate whose name is probably not a household word. Her name is Lenora Fulani. She is running as an independent. She campaigned today at the University of Minnesota and has a rally set for tonight at Stillwater Prison. She is the first black woman to get federal matching campaign funds and has her name on the ballot in all 50 states. She says the Democratic Party will deny Jesse Jackson the nomination no matter how many delegates he has, and that she is running to ensure a black progressive candidate on the ballot in November. If Jackson gets the nomination, however, she intends to bow out. Thank you very much for joining us. Ms. Fulani, do you really think the Democrats are so heartless that if Jesse Jackson goes in with a plurality of delegates that they will deny him the nomination?
In fact, what they've been saying to the people of this country is that if Jesse gets the nomination, he will cost them, the whites, in the primaries, going as far as possible as the Democratic Party will allow us to go with him. But if Reverend Jackson does not get that nomination, then I'm going to be on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia come November as an independent candidate who stands for the rainbow vision. That's how I feel the people of this country can support all of what Reverend Jesse Jackson stands for, because I think Jesse has gone this far in spite of the Democratic Party, not with their support.
Lenora, you know, I think one of the things that bothers me most, and I'm going to get back to David's question about whether the press has been letting the Reverend Jackson slide because they didn't take him seriously. I don't like being called a racist. And I think perhaps if I had been Dan Rather and George Bush had been Jesse Jackson and that famous exchange had gone back and forth between those two, we would have heard charges of racism. If reporters start getting tough on the Reverend now and saying, what about going to Cuba? What about going to talk to Gaddafi? That we would be called racist. How do we treat him like the other candidates and not have that label put on us?
Well, why not think about how to treat him like the other candidates and treat him respectfully as a front runner? I mean, Dukakis is running around talking about a miracle in Massachusetts when many people in that state are trying to succeed, at least in black communities in that state. The infant mortality rate in the state of Massachusetts rivals that of some places in third world countries. So I don't think the issue is treating Jesse Jackson with kid gloves. In fact, I think Jesse's programs have been very specific. I think one of the reasons why people don't know how specific they are is because it rivals the programs of the Democratic and Republican parties that are generally aimed at big business and promoting and supporting it.
Lenora Fulani says that she wants to march side by side. Jesse Jackson is trying to appeal to white voters. Nothing in the literature I sent that you sent to us indicates you're making that same kind of appeal to the great middle white America.
Not only am I making that appeal, but I'm getting a tremendous amount of support from white voters. I guess you have to realize that independents in this country have tremendous obstacles to standing in our way. In order for me to even get on the ballot, I have to get 30 times the number of signatures as does a Democrat or Republican. In spite of the fact that I've gotten federal primary matching funds, many of your viewers are hearing about me for the first time. I'm the only independent candidate to have qualified. So I'm appealing to many, many voters. 50% of the American people, white, black, Native American, Latino, did not vote in the last presidential election. 70 to 90% don't vote in state and local elections. And I think why people are making sure that my voice is not heard is because there's a tremendous amount of disillusionment in this country with the two-party system. And I intend to build off of that and provide the American people with a fight for fair elections, more democracy, and more of a choice. And all kinds of folks, including white people, are responding to that call.
Now, when they see the name Lenora Fulani on the ballot next November, it will not be a strange name to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up.